Wheel Hop, the warrior of performance. A violent villain that can shudder through your spine, shake and shatter your suspension. This is an evil enemy of structural longevity and acceleration. During wheel hop, a vicious cycle occurs of initial grip, traction loss due to forward wheel movement and tone changes, wheel spin, and regained grip. The more times this cycle occurs during a hard launch in events such as drag racing, the more wheel hop there will be, and if not addressed, this will cause long-term damage to your car. In fact, the Elantra N from stock is notorious from wheel hop, and if parts of its bespoke integrated front axle breaks, you may be looking at quite a hefty repair bill. So, when you want to accelerate hard, either on the straights or the corners, this wheel hop becomes a big problem for performance and at times daily driving. To help you troubleshoot why wheel hop occurs, we'll list and explain potential problem points in your car. After that, we'll break up the solutions into two categories: preventive measures you can take to avoid wheel hop, and if you need to drive hard, modifications which can entirely eliminate this enemy. With that being said, let's begin. Picture this, it's a late night with open roads, empty traffic lights, and no sign of prying highway patrol. So you race your mate for a pretty hefty bet, but turns out your car experiences a momentary assault on its components as it violently wheel hops, with your mate's tail lights slowly flying out of your line of sight as he laughs into the horizon. You know what this calls for? An investigation on your car! A classic whodunit, if you will. Let me tell you, there are multiple possible suspects, and you need to find the right one before wheel hop really bites you in the bud the more hard pulls you do. It's like fighting a serial killer, or killers before it's too late. Suspect number 1. Soft suspension bushings. We've just mentioned in the intro that the Elantra N, which we believe is one of the best brand new sports cars you can buy, is reported by many owners to have wheel hop. Part of this is as they've used rubber bushings which allow excessive axle movement, and when you have significant torque going through those front wheels, in the Elantra N's case up to 289 pound-foot or 392 Nm, this is a prime time suspect for wheel hop. Wheel hop isn't just a front wheel drive thing though, it's also in rear wheel drive cars with independent rear suspension as well. Why does this happen on cars with this particular setup? With both the Elantra N's McPherson strut front suspension geometry, which is independent by nature, and rear-wheel drive cars, these soft rubber suspension bushings are installed from the factory in a way to make the car comfortable and quiet over long journeys. As a result, there will typically be a bit of play and wiggle in the suspension joints which house these bushings, and this is where the vibration comes from. This gets even worse when these OEM rubber bushings wear out over time due to mileage. But we're not done examining the Elantra N yet. It's got other accomplices. Its lightweight 19-inch alloy wheel design and soft OEM engine mounts are a perfect storm for this wheel hop to occur. Let's examine why this is the case. When you have lighter wheels, especially in the facelifted i30N hatch with its forged wheel design, you get less rotational inertia, which means they spin up instantly. As they are lighter, they will resist less of that torque transfer to the tires, so you get wheel hop. Last on the Elantra N's wheel hop suspects is the soft engine mounts that these come with from stock, which allow the whole engine to twist under load, causing a sharp torque shock through the drivetrain. Yikes. And for those that have bought modified cars and experienced wheel hop, there's no surprises there. The suspension from stock on these cars were never designed for crazy amounts of power. This is as the shock dampening from stock can't handle the load transferred from the spinning tire. So unless you change out your damping to be more aggressive, which isn't a good idea as now you get the catch-22 of either putting up with a backbreaking ride on badly paved roads or having to tolerate nasty wheel hop from a hard pull. Adding to the point I've made about suspension, improper geometry of suspension and tires due to damage caused by either hitting a large pothole, worn suspension components, improperly inflated tires, or loose wheel nuts can also cause wheel hop to occur. Let's focus on that second last point I just made, improperly inflated tires. Why is this suspect number 2? Underinflated tires will cause the tires to bounce off the road similarly to thin tires, while overinflated tires can cause the tires to break traction and lose control with the road altogether. And the final suspect in this investigation, poor alignment. When your vehicle's wheels are not properly aligned, whether it be through camber, caster or toe, which are basically in our eyes the three stooges of suspension geometry, it can cause wheel hop. When the wheels are not pointing in the same direction, good luck trying to grip the road as effectively as possible. One way to tell whether you have proper alignment is by momentarily, for a few seconds, drive without holding the steering wheel. If you get what we call torque steer, where the car's wheels steer on their own to one side or the other, then you have bad alignment. If you want to know how you can pinpoint whether your car suffers from torque steer or not and ways to fix torque steer, check out our highly detailed torque steer guide with this thumbnail on our YouTube channel. Now, the investigation's been concluded in our eyes. Let's move on to the next stage, preventing wheel hop. Besides checking the pressure in your tires regularly and inflating them to the recommended pressure, we also recommend getting your suspension inspected regularly, replacing any worn or damaged parts. You can inspect this through various ways, and one great way to test out worn shock absorbers is through the bounce test. Choose one corner of your car and push down on it with your body weight. Repeat on all 4 cars to see which side of the car bounces more than twice, and if so, it's time to replace your shocks. You can also look at your tires to see whether one tire has more wear than the other, and this is usually a sign of bad alignment as well. Another great way to test for bad suspension is to see how it behaves when you drive. If your car has more body roll in a corner than you're used to, this could mean weak shocks. And if your car clunks over bumps or vibrates at speed on the freeway, the suspension bushings might be worn out. Now, if you have a high performance front wheel drive or rear wheel drive car that has soft OEM suspension, look at getting a wheel alignment every few thousand miles to maintain even tire wear and minimize the risk of wheel hop happening to your car during hard launches. Alternatively, try and avoid driving on uneven or bumpy roads as much as you can if your alignment keeps shifting by a few degrees when driving on these roads. Lastly, a driver mod is to just take care and enjoy the journey, not only the destination. Smooth throttle control by not doing hard launches at every traffic light will significantly reduce wear and tear on your car in the long term. With that all out of the way, what if you wanted to permanently terminate this loathsome feeling from your car and you're a guy that needs the performance? Well, we've got some mods in store for you in the next section. To counter the villains that cause wheel hop, you're gonna need some weapons in your arsenal to do so. One of the first mods we suggest is installing stiffer engine mounts, which can also include rear motor mounts and passenger side motor mounts. We recommend engine mounts like 6 Elements EM3 lower engine mount, a popular mod for the Elantra N we've dissected throughout this video. As most stock cars will default to using normal rubber engine mounts, they will have engine movement during hard acceleration, and the EPDM rubber used in these EM3 mounts significantly reduces this. However, there can be a trade-off in NVH as you are switching to a mount which uses a stiffer material than OEM. The older brother of the Elantra N, known as the Veloster N, has owners which have installed this modification and have reported an increase in NVH, with sounds such as gear winds even being heard. Secondly, they can cost a fair bit of money, and at the time of making this video, this mod costs a staggering $397 AUD for just an engine mount. So, what's the alternative then if you're not cash strapped in this cost of living crisis? Instead of replacing your entire engine mount, just replace the engine mount bushings. consider something like Powerflex's low torque mount bushings, with some using a stiff purple material that is 80A on the short scale. These are also very cost effective compared to replacing entire engine mounts, with Powerflex's purple bushings costing only $74.20 Australian. In fact, Powerflex have bushings of various levels of hardness, so if you're looking for a daily driver but you still want to do aggressive pulls every now and then, get the yellow bushings, as they have a hardness of 70A on the short scale, meaning NVH is also dialed down quite a bit. But what if you wanted something extreme? Go for something super stiff, like the black bushings, as their hardness of 95A on the short scale means ultimate engine stability. Let's revisit our mate, the Elantra N again. As the 2024 model got a facelift, one of the improvements was actually a reinforced engine mount membrane, which not only reduced these vibrations, but also increased the car's agility. To sum things up with this mod, ensure you know what you're gonna be mainly using your car for, so that you can get rid of the wheel hop, but not at the cost of too much NVH. Continuing on the theme of replacing soft parts with stiffer materials, we also highly recommend replacing your suspension bushings to a stiffer material such as polyurethane. This helps reduce suspension flex and movement, and with materials that are stiff in parts such as spherical suspension bushings, you can happily wave goodbye and farewell to any wheel hop. With rear-wheel drive cars such as the S550 Mustang, replace the rear bushes instead of the front bushings like you would if you had a front-wheel drive. BMR have actually designed a polyurethane rear cradle bushing kit which has a hardness of 95A on the short scale, so this will reduce bushing deflection. However, the potential pitfall of NVH comes into play again, as once you start replacing all these bushings with much stiffer ones, you'll start to realize that your car will feel very harsh to drive day to day. So, we only recommend as a general rule of thumb to go with metal bushings if you are spending a significant amount of time in your car on the track. Another flaw if you're a lazy person is the installation time. The BMR bushing kit we just touched on takes roughly 3 to 4 hours of installation time, and if you worked on your car before, these kinds of jobs can take longer than the specified time. Adding onto the topic of suspension bushings, you can also look to install bushing lockout kits. By preventing bushing deflection and cradle deflection through centering the cradle under the car, wheel hop is practically eliminated. And not only that, but they also don't increase NVH. So if you're looking to maintain lower levels of NVH but are willing to pay a bit more money, as the BMR IRS cradle bushing lockout kit for the S550 and the S650 Mustang costs about $550 AUD, this is a great option. Let's focus on rear-wheel drive for a second. Introducing rear vertical links. These are supposed to keep your rear wheels planted during acceleration, but from the factory in some rear-wheel drive cars, they can also flex, causing wheel hop. Look to upgrade to stiffer aftermarket rear vertical links that come with either polyurethane, urethane or Delrin bushings. You might be thinking, wouldn't this mess up my ride quality every day? Well, not quite. It will add some firmness to your ride, sure, if you're using urethane or Delrin aftermarket rear vertical links, but if you choose polyurethane, it shouldn't be too bad at all, as the goal is to keep those rear wheels planted. The stiffer you go, the better. We think polyurethane will be the best daily driver setup if you want to do pulls from a dig. Finally, if you want one mod that will definitely get rid of wheel hop, consider reinforcing your car's subframe. Let's revisit our old friend that we've harped on for the entirety of this section, the updated 2024 Elantra N. One of the notable improvements they've made to not only improve rigidity and performance, but also reduce wheel hop on top of that reinforced engine mount membrane we've talked about earlier, is by reinforcing the chassis in 7 different locations. So you've now seen how the engineering wizards do it. How can you do it? You can consider installing a 4 or 6 point subframe traction brace. When you install a subframe brace, you're stopping that initial flex and movement that causes wheel hop, and as a result, you're gonna get a more stable launch off the line that doesn't dig into your performance. If you're looking for a daily driver setup, go with a brand like Swave and Summit with the 6-point front subframe brace compatible with the Mark 7 Fiesta ST. But what if you want ultimate rigidity for the track to get that steering feel to improve even more? Go with a brand like Pierce Motorsports, as these tend to be chunkier and lower hagging, so the ground clearance will be lower for stock. So if you're worried about going down inclines or going over speed bumps, this might not be for you. And there's two things to keep in mind as well. If you do decide to go this route, it will be quite costly, with the Swave and Summit brace as shown costing a whopping $609. And the bolts for these subframes, can't use them again if you want to take them off, as these are stretch bolts. But we're not done quite yet. A cheaper alternative you can do to stiffen the subframe is through a subframe bushing support system. These are not only easier to install as they go on top of your factory rubber bushings, but due to you being able to keep your factory bushings, you won't notice any more NVH than you would before. Now, the S550/X650 Mustang is also infamous for its unstable wheel hop during hard acceleration, so Steeder have made their IRS subframe bushing support systems to give the rear end a more stable feel, which increases traction to the rear wheels. With that all being said, let's head into the concluding remarks. That's wheel hop for you, a vicious sensation that can send a shiver through your spine if you're not careful. Now, what can we take from all this? Fixing wheel hop isn't too bad at all. Ever heard of the choose your own adventure books you read when you were a kid? It's kinda like this as well. You can either choose to stiffen the edge mounts, suspension bushings, or the subframe. The choice, depending on the intended use case, is truly yours. If you had any other mods which you thought improved the wheel hop for you, please let us know in the comments. And for more information on how you can improve your car setup and steering feel, check out these videos. Thank you so much for the kind support throughout the channel by leaving comments, especially those that give constructive criticism so we can work towards our constant goal of improving our craft every video. Much love to you all, and I'll see you in a bit.